Great. Is that good then? Yep. All right. Any other business arising from the minutes? That's awesome. All right. So then let's move into the statistics then, section 8, and we'll ask our acting inspector McTaggart to present the his report. And sorry, just a note, Spencer just let us know that we are back on with the streaming again, just so everybody's aware.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my report will cover the months of November and December 2025. I'll start by the motor vehicle collisions by type. So for this 2-month reporting period, we had one fatal injury collision, 21 non-fatal collisions, and 108 property damage for a total of 210, which is exactly the same amount we had this time last year. Year-to-date, our collisions were totaled 903, which is a slight reduction of 3.9% over this time year-to-date last year for 2024. Moving ahead to criminal code and provincial statute charges laid. Criminal code non-traffic, we had 61. Criminal code traffic, we had 21. Highway Traffic Act, 629. Liquor License Act, 1. And under the other violations category, 73 for a total of 785. E-ticket warnings, we had a total of 342 and a year-to-date of 1,917. Violent crime, we saw 3 sexual-related offenses, 18 assaults/firearms-related offenses, 7 under the other offenses involving violence or threat of violence for a total of 28. Property crime, we had 1 arson, we had 8 break-and-enters, 12 theft over 5,000, 22 theft under 5,000, 1 possession/trafficking stolen goods, 20 frauds, and 18 mischiefs for a total of 78. Our drug crime, we had reported 1 cannabis sale charge for 2025 this time, and a year-to-date a total of 8 drug-related charges across various categories. Under the public complaints, we did have 1 for the 2-month reporting period and 11 year-to-date. Our patrol hours for 2025, for our November-December, 2,379.50. Youth charges, we did not have any for for this month reporting period, November-December of 2025, and a total of 9 overall year-to-date, which is a significant reduction over years past. Mental health-related occurrences, we had 54 incidents, and year-to-date we had 325, which is a slight increase over last year. Of those mental health-related occurrences by type, they broken down into 8 attempt or threat of suicide, 4 family disputes, 1 impaired over 80, Mental Health Act 38, person well-being check 1, suspicious person 1, and a weapons 1, for a total of 54. We did not have any overdose occurrences, thankfully, for this reporting cycle. And then the referrals to victim services for 2025, we had 101 offered, and of those 22 accepted. And year-to-date, 692 offered and 186 accepted. So when I look at the year-to-date, I compared what was offered versus what was accepted. So we did have a higher acceptance rate over this time last year, which could be a number of factors, but I'd like to see that trending upwards as much as possible. And that's the statistics portion of my report. I'll get into some of the local pieces that the board finds important, and I feel as well it's important to highlight some of the great work that's going on. The first thing I'll start with is an award that I nominated one of our civilian members at Brant Detachment last fall. And it basically is the COYO Award for Community Award for Youth Service. So COYO stands for Committee of Youth Officers of the Province of Ontario. And I'll just give you some background. It was formed in 1979 at the Ontario Police College as an association of police officers dedicated to the collection and dissemination of youth/youth crime and protection of information. Since 1979, the committee has grown and expanded to include representatives from numerous police services, youth service workers, educators, from various school boards, ministry representations from child and youth services, community safety and correctional services, and educating youth workers from the private sector. So the objectives of this award, or this committee, is to promote and a close liaison on youth issues between our members' respective organizations on youth issues, to promote the exchange of information and best practices between youth officers in Ontario, and to enhance and promote closer working relationships between police, educators, and youth service workers, and to act as a resource government agencies that have a mandate to protect at youth risks. So I nominated Tamara Brooks-Wheat, which is one of our DACs clerks at our office, and to give some background to the board. Tamara has been with us and involved heavily in our youth academy as a facilitator since its inception, as well as her numerous years of Girl Guide leader, which has aided her in being effective in our youth academy. So her nomination, I went in, I didn't know how that would be accepted, but I received notice on the 21st of January that she won the award. So Tamara, I gave the news to Tamara, and she was overwhelmed and enjoyed to hear that she was accepted as a recipient of that award. So the idea is that she will attend the COYO conference on the last day in February to be presented the award on behalf of all those attending that ceremony and the actual conference itself. So it's quite an accomplishment, and but again, well deserving in my opinion for Tam in our office. So she does a lot of great work. Okay, moving along to some of our, and I should update the name of this because our community mobilization officer is now our mental health liaison. The term has, or the title has changed, so I'll reflect that on the updates moving forward. So breaking down these by month for November, 20 mental health occurrences. MCERT responded to 6 of those crisis calls and 18 COAST referrals as a result of those. Of the 20 mental health calls for service, 11 resulted in apprehensions, 10 were admitted, and 1 was released. Total time in the ER was 21 hours and 8 minutes times 2. Mean time in the ER with the apprehension was 1 hour and 9, and time in the emergency room ranged from 46 minutes to 2 hours and 31 minutes. So just for everyone's awareness, the police hospital protocol is in place, the training has been completed, and moving forward, we're hoping that those time in the emergency room lessens with the training that everyone has received. As well as there's some indication here is the Community Safety and Policing Grant. And I'm not sure if anyone's aware, we had an information night this past week with Darmont Gives Back with the county to support newcomers for the County of Brant. So that is a grant that is provided to us from the ministry, and we have partnered, the O.P.P, County of Brant, and Darmont Gives Back to help newcomers transition to Brant County. So moving on to December, 34 mental health calls related for service. MCERT responded to 6 of those, and 12 were COAST referrals for follow-up. 12 of those incidents resulted in apprehensions, and 10 were admitted and 2 were released. Again, total time in the emergency room was 19 hours, 34 minutes. Average time was 1 hour, 37. And time in the ER ranged from 28 minutes to 3 hours. Again, the police hospital transition protocol training is in place, and I anticipate that we will see some feedback and positive results moving forward. In relation to our youth officer, again, broken down into 2 months for November. So in November, PC Vitalis had 39 youth-involved occurrences, ranging between criminal code, provincial offense, domestic, family disputes, mental health, sudden death, and police assist. There was no criminal charges, and 5 warnings, 0 diversions for criminal or POA charges, and there was no HD or POA charges as well. 1 youth was admitted to hospital, and 2 were transferred to hospital to be assessed by doctors. 2 youths were also located safe after reported missing. PC Vitalis delivered 2 self-defense fighting talks to intermediate grade students at 2 different schools, and the request of the school administrators to attend the Paris District High School. He also supplied the O.P.P Kids program to 6 classes at 6 elementary schools, and gave a presentation to the Beavers and Cubs Scout troops over 3 separate evenings. He also provided 119 students from 6 different schools with CA safety patrol training at the Children's Safety Village of Brant. For the month of December, he had 26 youths involved in 23 occurrences. Again, similar involvement with criminal code, provincial offense, and partner violence, family disputes, mental health, and police assist. There was no criminal charges, 1 criminal charge warning, no diversions, and 2 MHA apprehensions, and both of those apprehensions, the youths were admitted to hospital. PC Vitalis and 9 other members assisted with a lockdown drill at the request of the school administrators at Paris District High School. He also supplied the kids program to 7 classes at 3 elementary schools. And he continues to deliver online social media safety presentation training to 8 grade 9 classes at PDHS. Moving along to our traffic enforcement unit, and I will refer to the months that we're reporting on, November and December. In the month of November, we had 104 Part 1 charges, 7 Part 3 charges. Yes, that's correct. And for December, 73 Part 1 charges and 5 Part 3 charges. And I know in the past, the board has recognized some of the, and brought attention to myself with some of those charges to make them more fulsome. And I have messaged that down to our traffic unit members, so you'll hopefully see more of a wider range of charges versus just a straightforward speeding charge. Crime Stoppers, for the month of November, the O.P.P had 32, Brantford had 27, Six Nations had 6, and then for December, O.P.P had 4, Brantford Police 45, and Six Nations 2. And I'm not sure if the board has noticed or not, but our Crime Stoppers coordinator for Brant, PC McIntosh, has secured a loaned vehicle from Brantford Nissan that has been deckled up with Crime Stoppers on it. So that was for the month, Crime Stoppers month was the month of January. And Brantford Nissan has been very kind to loan him the vehicle for the month. I think it will extend it partly into February as well. And then graphic design also put those stickers on the vehicle at a reduced cost. I've asked if there's an opportunity to extend that beyond the small period of time. And so the dealer at Brantford Nissan is looking at whether there's an opportunity to do that. So just for the board's awareness, the county has never had a Crime Stoppers dedicated vehicle for that member in those roles. So I feel that this is an opportunity to build on that, as well as showcase and recognize the owner at Brantford Nissan and Nissan Canada in general to support them. So you might see some media releases coming out in the near future involving PC Vitalis or Enzo Coletta to just show our appreciation to Brantford Nissan for taking that step, because it's not always easy for this climate to donate a vehicle. So we feel that's a huge win from us. Okay, and then a little further on here, I'll talk about some of the staffing here. In the month of November, we welcomed Chris Barrett from Wellington Detachment. Chris Barrett replaced Christian Zimmer, who was successful in the ERT program. We said goodbye to Sheldon Fickling, who left our detachment in November to move closer to home to London. So he is now a member of the Middlesex Detachment. Sheldon started here as a recruit, and although he was reluctant to leave, he also recognized the commute was a little hard for him at times, especially working shift work. So he had about an hour commute from his home to here, and he did that for the last 3 years. So we wish him well in London. Also in the month of December, we welcomed Sabrina Candola She also joined us from Wellington Detachment, so I don't know if there's a trend here or not, because we have seen a few people come from Wellington. And no shout out to Wellington for anything other than the members are just eager to come to Brant. PC Candola replaced Detective Constable Rod Group. He was part of our Community Street Crimes Unit, that he was a successful applicant in the AGCO process, and he's at the casino in Brantford. As well as we welcome two cadets, Nick Ritter and Jesse Martin joined our detachment in December. And I want to make note to the board that Nick Ritter was in our first Youth Academy class. So the Youth Academy has not only provided us some benefits from that, we also have someone from that class, Youth Academy, going through for auxiliary. So I wish them well in that process, because we could definitely use some more people in our auxiliary unit. So I just wanted to highlight and share that with the board as well. In relation to media, in the month of November, PC Coletta sent out 19 news releases, 99 posts to Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And then for December, PC Coletta also attended the Remembrance Day ceremony in St. George, and attended as did I, as well as attended the Brant County Violence Against Women / Nova Vita event on November 25th. In December, he posted 17 news releases, 45 posts to Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and was involved, if hopefully the board recognizes that we had a joint ride initiative on Highway 24 on December 18th that included Waterloo Regional Police, Brantford Police, the O.P.P, and MTO. So that was shortly after the road closure we had on 24. So, but thankfully, the commuters that we did come in contact with did not raise any alarms for the delay in them going to work and now coming home from work, because it was in the afternoon that we ran this ride initiative. So that was really truly a team building experience, and all the services that were involved really found value in that initiative, and we hope to move forward on that, to not only doing the same thing next year, but maybe opening up to doing a couple more times throughout the year, just to showcase and to get ahead of some of those traffic-related incidents we're seeing, especially with impaired driving. So fortunately, we did not come across anybody that was impaired, which is, I feel, is a good news story. But there was some issue, or we did pull one transport off the road that was, MTO found issues with that. So anything we can do to help traffic safety, in my opinion, is a win. I think that's all I have. I did want to highlight a warrant that was executed in December by our Community Street Crimes Unit. And this was on our social media, but it's just, like I said, just as a reminder, on December 16th was when our Community Street Crimes Unit, who was assisted by Oxford, Middlesex, Elgin, Wellington, Haldeman, in Norfolk Street Crime Unit members, as well as our Tactics and Rescue Unit, Emergency Response Team, K9, to execute 2 search warrants and 6 individuals taken into custody. So those 2 search warrants were, one was in the town of Paris, and one was in the city of Brantford. So out of those warrants, numerous drugs and weapons were seized. So Jacob Edinburgh, of 21 of Brantford, was charged with possession of a controlled substance for the purpose of trafficking, fentanyl, same charge for cocaine, and the blanket charge of purpose of trafficking. They also received or charged him with some methamphetamine offenses, unauthorized possession of a firearm and careless storage of firearm, possession of property obtained by crime over $5,000, was held in custody and was held for a bail hearing. There's another individual of Brantford, Elena Cook, charged with very similar trafficking-related offenses, very similar to what I just read to you there for the other individual. So this And there were several other people here, and I will highlight Jason Kings from Paris. He's an individual that's known to us, that has been part of that drug subculture. We did seize some firearms from his residence that were concerning for us. But all this work speaks to hours and hours and hours of intelligence building by our Community Street Crimes Unit to get on top of this. And Crime Stoppers sometimes has value in that it helps us draw some attention to people that we typically wouldn't necessarily look at, but some people have information. So we follow those tips up on these different situations, and here's an example where it paid off. So once the Crime Stoppers tip came through and the members were able to draw some conclusions and do their hours, and like I said, hours and hours of intel building, that we were able to have a successful execution and some significant property, drugs, and weapons taken off the street. So that's kind of my high-level update from my end. I know there's a lot going on these last 2 months. I will leave up to the members here if there's any other questions.
Well, you ended your report on a big news situation, and I guess just when I read the social media posts and the scope and size of that work and that seizure and those arrests, kudos to your whole team for that, because that's a lot of stuff that's been taken off the street. Actually kind of alarming, the quantities of drugs that were quoted in those posts. And we know that it only takes a little bit to really do some damage, but the quantities that was mentioned in that post were significant. And then combined with the firearms on top of that and the safety of your officers, I know I'm happy to hear that that's all off the street. And I know that it's been a busy few months for all your team, especially through the holiday season and the winter weather and whatnot. And the board's received some of the different information pieces over the past few weeks. I know that'll be next month that we talk about that, but there's certainly a lot going on. So thanks for that sharing that great work. I'm sure we have lots of discussion because it's been a while since we've had any chats, but I'll get in before I turn my eye to, I'm ignoring Councillor Pierce on the screen for a minute because I know he'll have some questions, but I'm just going to get in quickly. On the Crime Stoppers, I just wanted to also note how much more I've noticed a presence with the O.P.P officer with, I only know him by his first name, sorry, his last name, McIntosh, thank you. Whether it's radio spots on the Brantford radio station about Crime Stoppers and all of that, whether it's social media, whether it's videos that he's doing, he's really amplified a lot of the Crime Stoppers work, and I just wanted to say that I've seen that and I hear it, and I think that's great. With the vehicle, I'm wondering if there's an opportunity for the board here to write a letter of thanks to the Brantford Nissan for their support on behalf of the board, and if the rest of the board is supportive of that, I can take care of that with Spencer and Acting Inspector McTaggart, but I think that would be great to do since we've not had that before, and we want to nurture those relationships and show appreciation. So unless I hear otherwise, I'm going to assume that everybody's okay with that thank you note. And then I just wanted to ask about the PC Vitalis and the CAA Safety Patroller Program. My understanding was that maybe it had faded out, so I'm seeing it's back on the list here again. I know when I first joined the board here, there was quite a program and the Safety Patroller Program, and there was like maybe some year-end appreciation stuff done for them and the kids themselves. And then it kind of faded out maybe through COVID and post-COVID, but it's great to see that it's back on the docket again. So I just wanted to confirm that the program actually is back up and running, and assuming it's being sponsored by CAA, and if there was anything that we needed to get on our radar in terms of as the year rolls out, coming into June, if there's going to be any kind of year-end things that the board needs to be aware of. Anyway, I'll let you go first before I...
Thank you, Madam Chair. You're 100% correct. It did kind of fade with COVID, as did a lot of other things. But there has been a renewed interest in that. and a lot of interest from the students participating. So Connor PC Vitalis has agreed to facilitate that as much as possible. So absolutely, there's a renewed interest in it, and hopefully we will keep the momentum going.
That's great news. Keep us posted if there's things. I know the previous boards have also supported that, so if there's something that we need to be aware of, I know we can get it into our planning as well. And then I wanted to ask about, oh, yes, okay, one of the things, I guess, with the changes to our regulations and the way things work now, we're no longer part of the grant system, the board is no longer part of these grant systems, which I don't think is right, because we're out of the loop on some of the activities and work that you're doing. And so previously, under the old Police Act, we were a signatory and kind of in the loop of what some of these grant programs were, and now with the new CSPA, which is confounding because they want a board to be there for governance and oversight, but then they've completely taken out that piece, so it doesn't really line up. Not to say that the county and the O.P.P aren't doing a wonderful job, it's just, I feel like we're out of the loop. So is there a way we can, like, I didn't even know there was an information night. I don't even know who Darmont Gives Back is, but they sound like a great group that's working with newcomers. That's great. Is there a way that we can share those? One, I guess, is what grants do we currently have in play? Because I think it shows the additional work that the O.P.P is doing on top of just the regular stuff. And then is there things that we can be shared with the board, like the information night or other things, as you guys go through things, community safety meetings, whatever it is that's going to come along? Because I'm sure from time to time there might be board members that would be interested in just popping in for awareness and information for their own, so that we represent the community properly as well. So I'm not saying I think it's just a disconnect with how the changes have rolled out. So if there's a way we can maybe talk at a future board meeting about what grants do we currently have on the docket and in the works, so that we can understand some of that work. And then if there's activities through these projects that you feel would be of interest, even if it's just for interest only, that we're aware of, that you could share that with the board as well. That would be my request.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Absolutely, I can share that with the board. I can make it possibly part of that local piece that I speak to, just as an awareness as to what's going on. But I can share for the board the Community Safety and Policing Grant. There was a vision for when we applied for this last spring. This is going back to April of 2025. That knowing how Brant County is growing and how our diversity and the cultures in the community are changing, I was mindful of the policing impacts it was having, because our members are going to these culturally diverse homes to provide a service, and not knowing, but some of the actions the members are doing go against the cultural beliefs of those individuals. So mindful that, first of all, they've called us for help. I don't want to intrude on their cultural heritage by going to the home and potentially separating individuals that were involved potentially in an IPV scenario, when that completely goes against that individual's cultural practices. So the idea moving with this grant was that if there was a partnership that we could have, and the county is traditionally our partner for the T-Pond system, but if there was another, and this came out of the Community Safety and Wellbeing committee that Dartmouth Gives Back, was a non-for-profit Caribbean community that's growing in Brant, and they had a lot of data they were able to share with us that helped us accomplish the needs of that grant. So moving forward, the idea with Dartmouth Gives Back is that they would provide some literature, some information, some supports to those individuals that are new to Brant that don't know where to go, don't know where to turn, as well as, in turn, educate the members of the O.P.P on some of those cultural differences that we're seeing. And I'm pleased to say, through the county, and Cindy's aware of this, that we have secured 4 spots for a police religious literacy program that's put on by Encounter World Religions in March, the end of March, I believe. It's a 3-day training workshop where they will introduce specifically police personnel to a range of different cultures where there's visits, there's education. So my plan with those 4 individuals that are selected to go on that will then in turn come back and share that information with Detachment. So on top of the grant, that was an extra piece that I was able to secure funding for, because traditionally there isn't funding for that, because it's $750 per person to send for this 3-day workshop. That the grant was able to accomplish that need. So that, again, speaks to that, the purpose of what this grant was for in the first place, to, first of all, introduce those individuals that are new to Brant, but also help educate the police personnel that are providing a service. So that's kind of a highlight of what the grant was based on and where we are with it. But if the board wishes, I can potentially provide those updates in my local updates.
Yeah, I think I'm seeing some head shakes. I think that anything that you can provide for that would be very helpful, and proactively, I guess, you know, if there's new funding programs coming through, or you secure new funding, or totally understand how the transfer payments work, and that's a financial arrangement between the county and the O.P.P, but just understanding not so much the financial side, but the activity side is, I think, what our board would be interested in. And so then how that interacts and intersects with the work that you're doing and with what the community needs are, and how the community safety well-being plan interacts with all that. I think it's just us understanding all the moving pieces and ensuring adequate and effective policing for our community is matching the needs of the community members. This is another program that you're working through to do that. So it's just making sure that we're informed as well. I think that we're all better informed. It can't be a bad thing. Everybody's kind of nodding in agreement with me, so I'm going to go with that. So, all right. Thank you for that. It's great. It's a great project by the sounds of it, and connecting people to resources. So I'm sure there's other questions and other discussions. We've have 2 months worth of statistics here to go through, so I'm going to open up the floor for some additional questions from our colleagues around the table. Member Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to the Acting Inspector. Thank you very much for your detailed report, and I still want to reiterate that the component that you provide to us at the end is probably more meaningful to myself than the raw data that we're getting from the first portion of the report. If I can go to page 2 or page 15, it shows that our stats are generally trending down in a good direction, with one main exception, and that's the theft over component, where it's up 100 or 35%. And my understanding is that a majority of those are related to theft of vehicles, as opposed to just theft in general. And I'm just wondering, is there anything that we are doing? I know a couple of years ago you gave us a report that showed where a lot of the cars were stolen and some of the circumstances surrounding it that gave us a little bit better of a picture. I don't know, are there any other things that we're not doing that could be done to maybe make the public a little bit more aware of this? You know, I know you guys have done lock it or lose it and other things, but every 3 days we're losing a car. And if there's a way we can stop the public from becoming just a part of another statistic, that would be beneficial to all concerned, I would think.
Through the chair, Member Brown, that this is a challenge we're seeing across the province. It's not isolated to just Brant County, and you are correct. The theft over 5,000 is traditionally motor vehicles. Our community street crime unit is very engaged with collecting data. Plus, we do have our regional analyst that we share with Oxford County that we leverage quite a bit to try to establish trends. The challenge with this is some individuals, and it doesn't matter how much messaging I put out there, that leave the vehicles, or sorry, they leave their keys in the vehicle. And with this being, you know, Brant County is growing, but we still have a large rural population. And I believe I reported back a few months ago on the trend for those older model vehicles to get stolen, like the early 2000s, which would traditionally fall under a farm vehicle for the most part. I think you see a lot of those older vehicles operated by people who are in the farm industry. So as much as the messaging is consistent, it's regular, we are still seeing opportunities or those situations where keys are left in the vehicles and then the vehicles get stolen and then they get reported. But also being mindful of how technology has advanced. We know we did talk about that at the information night we had last fall about how culprits can obtain that code for your key fob, and basically steal your vehicle right out of your driveway, and you have no knowledge of it till the next day when you go outside and it's gone. So this is concerning for me as well. And is there something we do to get ahead of that trend? So moving forward, this is a priority for me, and it is for the organization as well, because property crime is up across the board, and we need to do better to try to get ahead of some of those trends. So to your point, we are working on establishing those locations where we're seeing those vehicles being stolen and whether there's an opportunity to get ahead of it. And as you know, similar with the lower end offenses on property, where people go into your vehicle and steal certain things, eventually we'll catch them. It's just that whether we can clear off all those other instances as well where they've been stealing vehicles. We know there's gangs. We know there's groups that go around from location to location and reap havoc on that location and then move on somewhere else. And it's trying to get ahead of those trends and identify those individuals that is key for us. And yeah, so that's, in a nutshell, I don't necessarily answer your question per se, but I feel like it provides some context to what we're doing as an organization and sharing information with other police services, because as you know, a lot of times these individuals, so I just mentioned, will move around. And if Waterloo Region Police has got a current individuals in custody for a theft of motor vehicles, there's a good chance that they probably have stolen vehicles from Brant County. So that's kind of where we're going with this. And I would like to be able to see that number trend downwards, but it definitely is a hard piece to address.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And if I can just follow up with another. On page 20, we have the numbers of the public complaints. And they've gone up significantly over the last couple of years. And if you guys are busy working, I think that's a normal thing, that you're going to have some complaints from some people. What I don't know if it's something that can be followed up on is we always see that there's a public complaint, and that's the end of it. Is there some way that either at an open meeting or in camera that either you go back for the last year so that we're not being specific to anything, but we can see that these public complaints were concluded or finalized and X number of them were unfounded or X number of them were cleared or action was taken on some of them, so that we get a little bit of a sense of what's happened with that rather than just saying there was a complaint.
Through the chair, Member Brown, so FIPA applies here when I can't provide any details of the occurrence, but I can share with you that if a member is found culpable or responsible in a police community CSP applies, the member will be charged accordingly, and I can share that information. So in this case, I can tell you that of those 11 incidents, not one of those occurrences has resulted in a charge against one of our members.
Through you again, Madam Chair, that's exactly what I'm looking for, because if you read this report, you look like, or you may draw an inference that, geez, there's 11 bad incidents that have happened out there, and it would be nice to see at some point, even if it's at the end of the year, exactly what you just stated. Not one of those is, because the overwhelming, personal opinion, the overwhelming number of complaints come in are unfounded for different reasons. Maybe the public's not aware of that, and if we can recap that, even if it's once a year or whatever it is, just to let us know that, hey, there were the complaints, they were looked into, and there was nothing that resulted from it, because I want the us to have a realistic look as opposed to a stat there that it's just out there somewhere. If that makes sense?
Absolutely.
That's one of the challenges of this statistical report, is that there's no context to anything. There's no language that we can put to anything. I know that you've put that up through the O.P.P system, and we will continue to advocate for that as well. But that's a good suggestion, Member Brown, to have that context added somehow. Go ahead.
And the very last one, if I may, is Crime Stoppers, the same thing. We see all of the stats coming in. And when I first got in, the gentleman made a great presentation. I was blown away by all of the positive enforcement efforts that were taken from, and seizures or the interdictions that were taken as a result of them. But I don't see many of those things coming forward in the last couple of years. So it might be something where if we can see what the successes are or hear what they are, it may make it more meaningful as well.
Through the chair, Member Brown, would it be helpful if I were to have Councilor McIntosh provide a presentation on where Crime Stoppers is currently at and where they envision it going, like at a board meeting?
I would like to see that, but
Yeah, I mean, I recalled seeing on social media Crime Stoppers Brantford's most recent tip statistics, and I think it speaks to what Member Brown's talking about in terms of how many tips they received, cash recovered, property recovered, drugs seized since inception, 2025. So they have a statistic graphic here that we can share with the board. And I think that speaks to kind of the outcome of what you're talking about in terms of the work that they're doing. But I think it's been a while. It's been a long while since we've had any kind of touch base with the Crime Stoppers program. So that might be something we can schedule in for a future meeting. I think that would be helpful.
Sure, absolutely.
I'll get Spencer to share the graphic with everybody. It was posted on the Facebook page of Crime Stoppers Brantford Brant, so it's not public, so. But if that's something that we could have as well to show in the report, because we know that other people read this report besides just the 6 of us around the table. Okay, any other comments or questions? Member Stryker?
I just have a question regarding page 16 of the statistics here about drug crime. Acting Inspector McTaggart, you spoke about the media release and the significant drug seizure, and I just don't see any charges in November or December that would relate to that. I'm just wondering if you can provide some clarification.
Through the chair. Thank you, Member Stryker. Yes, I did do a deep dive into this, trying to understand where the disconnect was between the stats provided and the work we're doing. One of the issues I found is that when an occurrence is open, it may be several months that pass before there's any sort of charges laid as a result of that. So if there's a charge laid, all that data relates back to the original occurrence. But to that effect, that still should be captured in the year end. The other piece I found out is that as an organization, especially Brant County, we are not capturing the data the way we should be. So that is a learning piece for me, and to move forward to do better when it comes to data integrity. Because I know the work's being done, the charges are being laid, but the stats aren't being captured. And that's just, it's just as an important piece as the work itself. So I'm mindful of that, and a lot of this is coming through our community street crime unit, so I feel there's an opportunity to sit down with the sergeant in that unit and make sure when they are checking their members' reports that the statistical portion of it is being accurately reflected. That will feed the metrics that we're using for this report. So that is something that I've identified and something we're moving forward on correcting.
Good catch. On that note, you, and maybe it's another reporting thing, but on page, gosh, my eyes are the lighting or my old age, one or the other of the three. Page 20, the patrol hours. So 2023 and 2025 are very similar, but then 2024 has like 600 hours more in patrol hours. So I'm trying to understand what's the normal expected versus, is it a blip, or is the 29 what we are striving for, or 2,900, or is the 2,300 the actual reality? And so I'm just curious as to what the difference would be. And is it reporting? Is it staffing challenges or hours? But then it's the same time period, so I'm just curious to know what should be the benchmark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So regarding the patrol hours, and I did do a presentation on the service delivery model here in Brant for the board to help understand the driving factor in what our members are doing. So part of the members' day does include proactive enforcement, which patrol hours would fall under. But there's also other aspects that members are responsible for. So if you look at 23 and 24, the hours are higher. And then you look at 2025 and the numbers are lower. What I attribute to some of this is the way we're capturing the data. So I did a review of our service delivery here in Brant at the beginning of this year to try to identify some efficiencies as well as areas that we could improve on. And overtime was one of them. Then the other areas of the constable time allocation I referred to as that badge that was broken down, if everybody remembers that presentation I had, to make sure members are doing everything that is required of them under the model. So if you look at the model, there's a proactive piece, there's calls to service, community engagement. All those factors the members are expected to produce time into. So if that means that community engagement takes away some of the patrol hours because they're actually spending time on that versus driving around in a cruiser, I feel that those other aspects of the time allocation for the constable is what's driving our numbers down a little bit, because they're not just throwing that in as filler. And I don't want to say that the hours before were filler time, but if I look at where we're trending to and how we are drilling down on what members are accurately required to do in a day, their day shouldn't be all spent doing cruiser patrol. There's other pieces that they're expected to do. So I feel like the reduction in hours is partly due to the service delivery and how we're accounting for it and how we're getting better at it. Obviously, I would like to see the hours go as high as we can, but be mindful of the other obligations that are required of our members to report on would take them potentially away from certain aspects of that. I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, I understand obviously the service model that you, well, I understand it as well as that you gave us the presentation for it. You definitely understand it way better. I guess I'm just trying to marry up that 23 and 25 are very similar numbers, right? 2,300. And 24 is the blip of 600 extra hours in patrol cruiser hours. And so that's why I'm like, is 2,300 really the realistic number? And 2024, with it being 2,900, is that a reporting situation? Is that a, whatever? I want us to have the right frame of mind when we start into 26, when we start comparing numbers again. Is 25 with the new service delivery model and with everything you're saying, the right benchmark to compare against, when we're going to see 24 still in that report, because it'll go to the next, 23 will get dropped, 24 will stay in. Someone will look at this and go, holy smokes, why are we 600 hours short, or less, not short, less than the year before? But if you're saying that, if you say to us, well, yeah, that 2,300 is actually probably the most realistic allocation of time that we compare. Now, if it goes to like 1,800 or 3,000 or something, like that's where, I think that's where the board would be like, well, hey, what's going on here? Help us understand. But to not know the context of where the 2024 numbers fit in all this, I think that's where I'm just trying to understand. I don't know if I'm making sense or not, or if my colleagues are understanding what I'm saying.
Madam Chair, I think the numbers you're seeing for 2025 will accurately depict moving forward what you would traditionally see for this, based on where we're at with the service delivery. We're at year 3, so there is an expectation that our members will be accurately recording and should have a very good understanding of what is required of them on a day-to-day basis. So, in my opinion, I believe the 2,300. I feel there's always an opportunity to build, but I'm not sure whether we'll see what we've had in years past moving forward.
Based on how you report.
Correct.
And so, again, I wish we could put an asterisk beside it. It's like Barry Bonds in the World Series and home runs and everything. Like, we need to have some context, because anybody that would read that would say, well, we're getting less. We're getting less out there. And when we know the number one thing from our residents is we want to see more of our police in the communities. And then if they read this and say, well, we had that, what happened? It's not necessarily that there's any less officers out in the communities, it's how it's being captured and reported. And I think that asterisk context is really, we need to be mindful of that.
Yes. Thank you.
Councillor Pierce, we've been waiting for you.
Sorry, Madam Chair, I thought you were ignoring me there, so. Yeah, so I guess maybe there's a good thing with me going last, because there's definitely been a couple of my questions already answered. With the theft over 5,000. Thanks, Member Brown, for bringing that up. That was one of the questions I had. And I know you spoke of, people leaving keys in the vehicles and stuff like that. A very good friend of mine, just a week or so ago, had her truck stolen from the north end, and they have it on camera, and it was literally, the keys were not in it. It was locked, and literally within 21 seconds, they were in the truck and gone. So that just it's kind of scary how fast they can do it. My question on that stat is, so, when we look at the numbers, if the trucks, is there anything to indicate how many of these vehicles are recovered? Like if we look at 2025, so we have 131 theft over 5,000. As we know, I'm going to say, for the most part, those are vehicles. Is there any indication or even in again, with the once a year stat or something like that we can get an understanding of, we had X number of vehicles that were stolen, but we recovered however many? I'm not sure if that's possible or not. And then with the complaint aspect of it, it doesn't surprise me, but I'm very happy to hear that, none of those resulted in any charges against the officers. And I agree again that information, as I've said before, when it's just a number, people just take it by the number, right? So I think that's very important information to have, and we appreciate the fact you can't get into any specifics or anything like that, but just the fact, there was 11 complaints, and of those 11 complaints, none of them stuck. So I think that's very important information to have. Again, with the patrol hours, that was one of the questions that I had as well. And again, it's all around context of the fact, again, people see a number and they go, wow, that's a big difference, what's going on type thing. And now we've just understood the rationale behind it. And I think we kind of knew that with the new service delivery method and stuff like that. And I think the key with that is the fact that, as part of the new service delivery model, the officers are still out in the public. It's just it's a different way, I'll call it. It's not necessarily in the cruiser. It could be, face-to-face discussions with the public, which, to me goes even farther, right? So I think, again, it's not the fact that our officers aren't out there. It's just the fact that they are now out there in a different aspect. And I think it's, again, just the context of the public knowing that, I think is crucial, because, as been stated here and has been stated before, people form their opinions and then they get it on social media and it just goes boom, 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 boom. And all they see is the fact of, the reduction in hours. So I think we've said enough about that. And I think, Acting Inspector McTaggart, you know where we're coming from, and you can appreciate that. So any additional context that you can add would be fantastic. So then I'm gonna switch over to again, I'm not surprised, but a very positive thing in regards to the award for Tamara. I think that's well deserved. Every interaction I've had with her has been 110% positive. I don't think she's got a negative bone in her body that I've ever seen anyway, and I think that's fantastic. And kudos to her. One question I do have: you mentioned that Chris Barrett is joining us. That's a local coming home, so that's kind of a good news story too, because he is from the area, and that's fantastic news that he's coming to join us. So that's great. The other question I have, again, some of my questions were answered, so that's good. Just bear with me while I just find the page here. Sorry, I was prepared, and so my questions started to be answered. It's on page 20. Well, maybe that's with the next one, because I'm actually on page 35. So that's not necessarily part of your report, but it just gets into when it talks about the traffic enforcement initiative. Again, I know you alluded to it a couple meetings ago in regards to the zeros we're seeing in the Part 3 charges and criminal charges. And I my apologies, I can't remember exactly. I know you responded to that last time, and you were going to look into why that's coming up zeros. And I just wondered if you could just remind us again why those zeros are there and what they're associated to.
Through the chair, Councillor Pierce. So yes, I was aware that in years past, we have seen through other individuals in the traffic management role, priorities when it comes to what those individuals prefer doing. I'm going to reference Council Parker when he was in that role. He very much speeding was his priority. So you would see his Part 1 charges, which typically would be speeding tickets, on the increase, and nothing in the other categories. So be mindful of policing is not just speeding. There's other enforcement pieces to education. That's where I pushed back on more of a fulsome account on what we're seeing in the Part 1 and criminal charges. So we are trending upwards again in the Part 3 areas. As you can tell from November onwards, we are moving ahead. We're getting some numbers in those categories. And I hope that you will see the same for 2026. I can share with the board that Pam Novak will remain in that role for 2026, and Caleb Sinclair is coming back from a parental leave in February. He will assume that role, and he is well versed in the Part 3. He actually prefers Part 3 charges over Part 1. So you will see, like I said, those categories will likely increase with his presence in the role. And again, with the criminal charges, if we can get something criminal out of the traffic stop, that's an added bonus as well.
Right. And yeah, I appreciate that. Again, it just comes down to, somebody looking at the report, right? If they look at 2024, those 213 Part 3s, and in 2025, there's a, 00000, and then we are, to your point, we're back up at the end of the year to 13 there. So again, it's just that added context. Anything we can add to that is just going to make it more digestible for the public. And then just one final one, when you alluded to the ride programs and such that we're going through, and you stated that the number of impaired drivers was actually down, which is absolutely a great news story. I must admit, I'm at the south end of town, as you know, and there's been a couple of them set up right at the corner coming down the hill, and that's a great spot. We've seen them there a couple of times, and I've actually had a couple comments that it was kind of neat to see it in our area, was the one comment that I thought that I received. That's kind of a different comment, but it just shows that, like they say, what is it? Ride anytime, anywhere. And it just shows that you are covering, all over the county. It's not just specific spots, you know, you've got your hot spots, as you've said, you've told us before in regards to the 403 off Gretzky and that sort of thing. But it just shows that you're actually moving around. So those that are trying to, divert around you are going to get caught in the end anyway. So kudos to that, to you and all your staff. And that's all I have, Madam Chair. Like I say, maybe that's the new for 2026 is Councillor Pierce will go last because all his questions are asked already. Thank you.
It's always good to just shake it up a little bit and rotate it around. It's also good to see that we have, to collectively, we have similar types of questions or reports, things that we've honed in on, so that's good.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. As I was going through and the questions were being answered, I went, oh, okay, interesting. But yes, thank you.
It's a shared thing, yep. Any other, Member Boudreau?
Yeah, I too had actually circled on the context, sorry, Madam Chair, through you to Acting Inspector. And I believe a few months ago, one of the things we had talked about, or one of the things that the inspector had offered, was to have a representative come in who is involved in the process of the investigation. So what happens when it leaves the local community from somebody's got a complaint? It's not yours investigating yours, it goes to another body that does that. And I think it would be useful both for the board to be presented with what that process actually looks like, and also by extension for those that take the time to watch this in the community to understand that when they put in a complaint, there is an independent body that actually looks after this and addresses it. And any sort of information that we could get or presentation, I think would be beneficial to us and to the community. Because I know the other thing that sort of tumbled in my mind as the inspector was sort of speaking about 11 conducts were put through and found to be unfounded. What I also don't know is if they were found to be founded, is there degrees like you'd have in any other sort of legal situation where there's a reprimand versus a legal charge versus et cetera, because I don't know if any of those came through and it was a don't do that again versus something that was truly criminal in nature as well. So love to see a presentation and just to get a better understanding probably through that same presentation is, are there degrees of not founded versus criminal charge and something that sits in between there? Thank you.
Through the chair, Member Boudreau, absolutely. I did mention that in the past, and I have reached out to our Sergeant Major, who's in charge of investigations for the region. They're more than willing to come to a board meeting to provide context to some of those questions that you have and provide some explanation of how the investigative process works. This might be a good time to let the board know that one of those meetings in March, I reached out to the Minnesota Policing Bureau to attend. The budget, as you know, came out for policing costs, and I had set up a date in March for them to come. I think our meeting was the 24th of March to provide a presentation. I haven't had a chance to talk to the board about whether that's still appetite because it's so fresh in everyone's mind. There was a webinar, I believe it was this week, that our Municipal Policing Bureau put on for municipalities to view and to understand the cost and the increase in the cost for that. So I do have them committed to the day, so they're willing to come to the board meeting and then in turn come to council if that is the wishes of either Mayor Bailey or Councilor Pierce, if you wanted to raise that with council and see if there's any appetite for them to provide a presentation. If anyone is unfamiliar with some of the changes for 2026 to the billing, that might be of interest. So on the point of Member Boudreau mentioned about bringing in a speaker, like I said, I did take it upon myself to coordinate that date with our municipal policing to come in and do a presentation. So I'll just leave that for the board to consider and whether there's any you want to follow through on that.
So personally, I think that's a great idea, especially if there's changes. I don't recall seeing an email, but there's been so many emails, so it's possible that I've missed it, about the seminar this past week. So with all these changes, I don't know if we all get the same pieces of information, but I wasn't aware that there was any kind of educational workshops about the changes. So if that's the case, it would be good, I think, for us to understand. I know we don't decide some of those things, but having the context of how they calculate what they calculate and how they do bill the county. I mean, obviously, the county and Mayor Bailey and his colleagues will probably want to understand that in a different context than what we as detachment board members would want to figure that out with, but is everybody good with having them come in March? Mayor Bailey?
Yeah, Madam Chair, was it the 24th of March, did you say?
I believe
The
that's
24th?
Spencer's just checking the dates. Yes, March 24th.
Okay, thank you.
So would they be doing a presentation for us and then potentially doing another one for council in the evening, or?
That's correct.
Yeah,
I think that'd be well received.
Yeah,
okay,
So
great.
I will firm up then with our Municipal Policing Bureau representations that we are good for the 24th. Like I said, I did have a standing time slot for them to get it in their calendar because they said they do book up quickly. So I will confirm that with them. Thank you.
Yeah, and then I guess Spencer will help coordinate anything that we need for the council agenda to make sure that that's on the evening agenda. And then just back to the, I'm assuming it would be like LECA that would come in to Member Boudreau's request. Only because it's been in the news topically, I just want to distinguish between a public service complaint that we see versus someone who might be charged with something. I know recently in the news cycle, there was an officer that was charged for driving under the influence. That's a charge separately from a complaint process, right? Like, just to be clear.
So, Madam Chair, yeah, there's actually 3 levels. There's our Professional Standards Unit, LECA, Law Enforcement Complaint Agency, and the Inspector of Policing. Those are 3 governing bodies that oversee investigations involving members. So if a member is charged with a criminal offense, that criminal offense will play out first, and then there'll be an internal piece that follows up with that.
And those are I guess what I'm trying to go back to is if the public complaint was a founded complaint, we would know, because it would be made public,
Correct.
right? There would be some kind of charge or finding of that investigation, and my understanding of that process is it's made public, but we will learn that more through that presentation, so.
Yeah, so I'll have our Sergeant Major Jay Little from West Region. He's in charge of our Professional Standards Unit here locally. I'll reach out to him and coordinate some times for him to come in and provide some context.
Perfect. Okay. Any other, very good, fulsome discussion, Member Boudreau?
Yeah, just one, and actually it's more related to an upcoming presentation, which is around the detachment action plan. I just wanted, because again, it was one I highlighted, which is of course the thefts over the 5,000. And what I'm trying to set up is when I read through the action plan, it didn't jump out at me that there was a strategy or an outcome that was specifically identified in addressing that. So I'm putting that in the acting inspector's ear to maybe highlight that for me when we get to this particular document later in today's board meeting. Thank you.
All right. Quite a productive discussion, which is always good. Any other comments, questions, concerns, clarifications on the detachment commander's report for November and December? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to receive the report for information. Mayor Bailey and Councillor Pierce. All those in favor? And that's carried. We'll move into section 9, staff reports, and I'll ask Cindy to review the false alarm statistics report with us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to the board. The report today provides an overview of stats year over year, so you can see how the total of 2025 compares to 2024. And as the report notes, we almost have a status quo situation in terms of response to false alarms by O.P.P, with 222 in 2025 compared to 223 in 2024. The total invoiced is quite a bit higher, and that is attributed to the change in the bylaw where we do not reset property owners every year. It I can report that we are in a position now to move forward with the strategy regarding individual repeat properties. Those property owners will start to receive their new letters come February, and O.P.P and bylaw will be visiting those properties that have had the third and fifth response in terms of false alarms. So hoping to see that that will make an impact as we move forward this year. And we will continue the public education campaign through our communication staff as well.
It's frustrating, I'm sure, to see that while the first calls are down, the third, fourth, and fifth calls continue to escalate. So even though the bylaw was changed and the fines are greater, or they're not restarting, the message maybe isn't getting through, or there's technical difficulties or whatever that is. So this outreach, I think, will be good for the community to have the contact to try and get this resolved. Councillor Pierce?
Thanks, Madam Chair. And now this is getting a little bit scary because I had a question on this one. It's exactly what you just said. The fact that even though our numbers are pretty much similar between 24 and 25, the number of false alarms, like you said, with the fourth and the third and the fourth and the fifth are definitely up substantially in 2025 than they were 2024. So my question, when we put the news out to all these folks that in regards to the, either new property owner or 2 years before it resets, I'm curious of the feedback, if there was any going, that's ridiculous, or that's a good idea, or no comments at all, because I really think it's going to, as I've said on this subject before, I think it's going to help in both ways, because we're going to potentially, see where our, problems are, so to speak, and maybe it's a problem that they weren't aware of, or whatever. But I'm just curious, how was that news digested by those that may be affected?
Through the chair to Councillor Pierce, since we started, I guess, not doing the reset, I personally haven't received any negative feedback. So currently, the letters come out from our finance department, and they will escalate things if there's conflict involved, and I haven't received anything come my way since we started doing that. So it's kind of interesting. We'll see when the visits start, what kind of feedback we get from these property owners. Hopefully they'll be cooperative and work with us. And their approach will be educational, how can we support you in fixing this problem? Here's the impact it's having on our resources. Here's some strategies to try and help you deal with it and avoid any more fines as well. So.
Okay, follow up, Madam Chair. Thank you. And that's great news, Cindy, and I'm happy to hear that. And I think the key in the whole thing is the fact that, we're reaching out. Yes, we are changing the way things work with these false alarms, which we all agree is the right way to go. But I think for the public, the way we're going about it, and I think it's the aspect of, we're here to help. We're not just going to say, ha, we got you again, ha, we got you again type thing. We're here to understand, is there a problem that we can help you with, or is it just the, maybe a lack of education? And you alluded to that on their part. So I think it's a win-win, and it'll be interesting to see the stats in 2026, how they roll out, because at the end of the day, even though we're not talking millions of dollars here, it's still, it's hitting their pocketbooks. And when it hits their pocketbooks and there's somebody there that's trying to help that not happen, I think that should be received positively, and by the sounds of it, it has. So that's great news. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the false alarms report? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to receive the report for information. Member Stryker and Member Brown. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so we are going to move. January is always a busy month trying to catch up with everything, so I appreciate everybody's indulgence here. We'll move into section 10, communications. We just had a quick discussion here on the municipal policing bureau coming in to talk to us in March about the billing statement, and in our package 10.1 is quite a lot of information on calculations for the 2026 estimated costs and the 2024 reconciled costs. So everything is 2 years, the 2-year gap, right? So 2026 will be reflected in 2028's billing. I think it'll be interesting to see how growth in our county will reflect in the model based on calls for service, and I know it's not in the policing budget necessarily, but how do we ensure there's enough people to match the people that live here versus the billing model being 2 years behind? So I'm interested to learn more about how all that connects the dots, because I think that's something that I know our community is concerned about as well, is that we have the right resources in the right places at the right times. Councillor Pierce?
Thanks, Madam Chair. And I'm not sure, it's on page 35 of our report. And I don't believe it's part of the annual billing, or maybe it is, I'm not sure. But it's the letter from the Crime Prevention and Community Support Bureau. It's dated November 27th. And it talks about, I guess it's kind of the first part of the annual billing. But I'm just wondering, I don't recall seeing this. Do we know if this particular letter has been forwarded to council? And that being said, if it hasn't, can we get that? Because I think that's good information as to how that works with the year-end reconciliations, because technically it's 2 years behind, and again, people might not know that, and I don't know if that can be open to public or not. But again, it's this type of information that within those within the on the internet there, when it talks about the O.P.P billing model and stuff like that, and Inspector McTaggart alluded to it earlier. I think as far as the public is concerned, I feel there's a lot of people out there that may want to, that may have interest in that information. I just want to make sure that this particular page, if it has not already, A, is sent to council, and B, if there's any way to put this somewhere where the public can get at it as well. I think it, again, not everybody's gonna look at it, but I think there's a lot of good information in there if you go to those sites, and about how the whole billing model works and that sort of thing. And I think that's good information to get out there. So I would ask, if it hasn't been, if we could forward that would be great.
So Councillor Pierce, because it came November 27th, which was after our last board meeting, we didn't have a board meeting in December.
Yeah.
This is public information. It's part of our board package. So it is
Right.
out there in the public realm right now as part of our detachment board package. Spencer's going to look. He's searching right now to see if it's been forwarded to council, and I'm sure he'll figure out a way to make sure that it is, if it hasn't been, but not going to put him on the spot right now. He's looking. So,
yep. No, as I say, I think that's there's a lot of information in there that people would like to see, and if we could just disseminate that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, and to your point, I think what would be interesting to note, not that, again, that our board gets into the costs so much, but I guess I'm looking at more value, is, there's information here on cost per property for policing.
Yep.
How does that compare to any of our neighboring communities? And I know it's not always apples to apples, but it just would be interesting to know how that, and that's not anything that Acting Inspector McTaggart would access or anything like that, but I'm sure that information is available out in the realm of the public sphere. But there's a lot to digest here, and there's not really a lot of time here to necessarily get into the weeds of it, and especially if we're going to have a presentation in March that will go through. Oh, sorry, Cindy's got her hand up as well.
Sorry, Madam Chair, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I did find an answer to Councillor Pierce's question from earlier in the agenda.
Okay.
Regarding budget. So the council budget, in the kind of first few pages, they do an executive summary.
Yep.
And roll up all costs related to police service. So there's an O.P.P line, which is the 10.9% figure overall. So with you know, the billing that we're looking at here, the board's budget, police court security grant, overall, there's a 10.9% increase projected in 2026. If you go further on in the budget and look at our external agencies, which is where O.P.P is listed, it breaks down different sections. So police administration, which is what we're looking at specifically here, and delivering O.P.P service, there's an 11.9% increase in 2026. Police court security is a grant which has no impact on the budget. Police programs is another section which has no impact. And the police detachment board has a 7.4% decrease in 2026. So pulling all those things together, overall, there's a 10.9% increase in 2026.
So it's all wrapped up in one line item in the executive summary, but then it's detailed?
Correct.
Okay. Counselor Pierce, does that help you?
Yeah, so.
I mean, it's more of a council discussion than it is maybe us here, but I just wanted to make sure that you had what you needed.
Yeah, just give me 2 seconds here. So okay, so it's just the board, the O.P.P detachment board that's down to 7.4. It's not overall of O.P.P then.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
But coming back to this letter that we received, it does say that the increase has been capped at an 11% increase, so it does refer probably back to what the policing costs are that you're talking about, the increase that you've accounted for.
Through you, Madam Chair, that's my understanding. And that 11% cap does not include the enhanced services that the county contracts with O.P.P. So the traffic units are on top of the 11%. That's why we're at 11.9%.
Clear as mud, in a way, but, so, Councillor Pierce, you have what you need, though, from the council perspective for budget. This letter from November 27th is for information and hopefully gives us some time to review it and have some context for when we have the presentation in March. It is publicly available as part of our detachment board agenda package, and Spencer will also make sure that it's forwarded to council. Did we cover all that, all those action items for that one thing for now? Have we? Okay.
I'm good.
All right, so let's move into the next 10.2. Since we're talking about more money, this one is the credits back to the county from municipal policing for various services. And we need to note that the security check revenue will be phasing out. I think they've noted that there. And so this is the credit back that the county would receive for various shared services that gets put on that one line item that Cindy just talked about. 10.3 is a letter of thanks and appreciation. Oh, sorry, Councillor Pierce.
Sorry, Madam Chair, I didn't realize that what you meant is that was it for 10.1. No, that I do have a couple questions on 10.1 if I could. My apologies for the billing statement.
Okay, I'm just conscious of time because it's 10:45 and we have to get to the action plan. So yes, go ahead.
Okay, I can. I'll do it at another meeting. That's fine.
No, like go ahead if it's just some clarification you need.
Yeah, just very quickly. So on page, it's actually page 3 of that report, page 3 of 23, or page 39 in our package. When it on number 4, when it talks about overtime, it says overtime costs incurred in servicing detachments for shift shortages have been allocated on a per property basis, based on straight time. So what I'm trying to understand here, and I think you had said this before, Inspector McTaggart, that overtime calculation is the same all over the place. It's not just the fact of, again, if people are reading this, when they see shift shortages, they're gonna the question might arise, oh, don't we have enough officers? So I just want to confirm that this is not specific to Brant per se. This is overall how it's calculated across the province
Through
as
the
far
chair-
as overtime is concerned.
Through the chair, Councilor Woods, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, again, because it's one of those when they see that, it's just oh, are we short type thing. So, thank you, Madam Chair.
Is that everything, Councilor Pierce, or was there other?
Yeah, the other ones aren't. I just wanted to confirm that one for sure. The other ones, as I say, there's a couple little ones, but I can ask those at a future date. It's not
Sure.
a big deal.
So I would encourage everyone to kind of keep this 10.1 package
Yeah.
and maybe
And that's-
star asterisk your questions, because when we get the team from Municipal Policing Bureau here, it'll be a great opportunity to dive deeper into some of those conversations and questions.
Right. Actually, Madam Chair, my apologies. I do on page 52, because that's still part of that as well. When it talks about the additional service agreement, that's our traffic management. I appreciate that. So I just want to, it's actually on page 53 of that when it's got the, in the notes there, when it talks out, the salary rates are based on weighted average, and I understand that. But at the bottom of it says, in 2026, the reconciliation for hours of service provided will be based on the updated availability factor of 1,381 hours per year. So I'm just trying to recall, and I did ask Cindy this yesterday because I was trying to break down those hours, and it again, if I break it down to, if I divide that by 52 weeks or whatever, or if I try and go at it from the other way of, 37 and a half hours a week type thing, it just didn't break down for me. But Cindy was able to find, just for the rest of the board here, our original contract, I believe, was for 1,417 hours a year. So it's not a whole lot off that, but it's just a breakdown in the sense that, it's, even though there's 2 FTEs, again, would suggest that, they're working 35 hours a week, but that's not necessarily the case for this. I just wanted to just clarify that for anybody that may have that question. Or maybe it was just me that had it. I'm not sure.
No, I think everybody's, no one's got their hands up here, Councillor Pierce, but I think the
Yeah.
context is good to understand. There's a lot of moving pieces there.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry. Everything else is good to wait. My apologies.
Are you sure? Because I'm going to move on to 10.3, so I want to make sure.
Moving on.
Okay. We've already addressed 10.2. 10.3 is a letter of thank you from the Canadian Mental Health Association for the support of the golf tournament in September. We received this before the holidays, so that's a letter of thanks to the board for our support. 10.4 is another reconciliation for the security and prisoner transportation costs and the grant allocation. As Cindy alluded to earlier, it really doesn't end up as an expense line item with the grant in place and the shared services. So this is a credit that comes back to the county. 10.5 is, what is this? This is from the Ontario Association of Police Service Boards, which is going to be known by a different name shortly. I think it's Police Governance Ontario, PGO. So this is some information that they sent out at the very beginning of the year. If you click through in your spare time, a lot of it is specific to municipal police service boards in terms of regulatory changes that came into effect January 1st for police service boards that, and for, I'm sure the O.P.P would take care of this through their own structure as well, but ensuring there's job postings are, there's new regulations with respect to job postings in labor. There's new regulations with respect to cleaning of facilities and how that's done, and health and safety. I read up on it. AED, machines availability in certain situations, those types of things. And so they're advising that the boards might want to ensure that there's effective policies and procedures in place for their police services. I'm not clear on how this intersects with the O.P.P. because we don't tend to get involved in the operational side of things. So my assumption when I read all those was the O.P.P. hierarchy will have taken all this into consideration because that's an operational matter that we don't typically get involved in. So unless we hear otherwise from you, Acting Inspector McTaggart, this is for information, I suspect at this time. 10.6 in your package, Spencer's asked me to find out if there's anybody that knows that they're interested and available sooner rather than later so that we can start to get things organized. The conference for the OAPSB will be in Niagara Falls. It's always a good informative session. It looks like the O.P.P. detachment will have a training on Sunday, May 31st, and will go overlap to June 2nd, and then the municipal boards will have their specific training on June 3rd on the last day. So we get the Sunday. So it's Sunday, May 31st to Tuesday, June 2nd in Niagara. We do have funding in our budget to help with the offsetting of expenses. Is there anybody besides myself that is interested in attending? Member Brown? Potentially? Need to check dates? Councillor Pierce?
Yeah, again, I'd have to check dates, but I would like to get to one. I haven't been to one as yet.
Okay, so if everybody can get back to next meeting, if possible, with your availability, then, but so far we have myself and Member Brown that have indicated interest. And then did we say, so 10.7, we added that letter that we received this morning for interest, and it was emailed out to those online. We have it here in person, so a letter came through from the Solicitor General and the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, just with respect to how strong mayor powers and police service budgets intersect, and what can and cannot be vetoed, or how those powers all work. And so this is for information at this time. I believe it's already been shared with council, or yeah, and so this was flagged to share this as information with us at this time. I don't know, Mayor Bailey, if you had anything else you wanted to add to it, or?
No, I think everybody knows council. We've talked about it at council, and we're halfway through the budgeting process, so.
Great, thank you. Now, did we put volunteer checks on us under communications, or did we put it as other business? Okay, thank you. All right, so unless there's anything else under communications, which I don't have on my list, we plowed through that. Mayor Bailey?
I'd just like to make the motion to receive all of 10.1 to 10.6 as a group.
Including the amended 10.7 that with that new letter as well then? Is that okay?
Yes,
Yep.
please. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mayor Bailey. Seconder for that motion, Member Stryker. All those in favor? And that's carried. All right, let's move on to our updates. Councillor Pierce, anything to share with us as an update from council?
Madam Chair, I just got one question through you to Acting Inspector McTaggart, and you don't have to answer today, but if it's something you can take away, that would be great. And it has to do with paid duty officers for events. We're just curious as to, is there any standard as to what type of events have to, or is it just the choice of the event have to have paid duty officers on site? That being said, is the number of paid duty officers dependent on a couple of factors? A, alcohol, no alcohol, numbers of people, like, if there's 100 people versus, 500 people. Just curious from an O.P.P. Point of view, how does that work from your side? As I say, is it mandatory to have police presence? And again, how does that work as far as numbers of officers, length of time of officers as it coincides with number of individuals at the event and alcohol, non-alcohol.
Through the chair, thank you, Member Pierce. So there's a seat committee with the county that identifies the need for paid duty officers at specific events.
Yep.
And it's through that committee that they identify which events will require police attendance. And then it's up to the O.P.P to determine the number of officers required for the event. To your point, on some of those factors, alcohol is being served, how many people are going to attend. There isn't a model per se on, say, for every 100 people, there's supposed to be one officer. There's no model that reflects that. We traditionally look at across the province, lean on other events to try to determine and direct the number of officers required at our event. But for every paid duty for every paid duty constable that attends, when there's 7 of them, it requires a supervisor. So that's the only model we have built into us. So if you have more than seven constables at an event, they require a supervisor. But to your point regarding those events, that's all through the C committee, through the county, and then it's up to us to determine how many members we will provide for that event.
Okay, so just to reiterate then, yeah, and I knew it was the seat committee that would initiate that, but there is something from the O.P.P point that says, okay, so this is the event, this is what's happening, so we need X number of officers. Part B to that, has there ever been situations where, hypothetically, let's say you needed 5 officers. Has there ever been situations where you just could not find 5 officers that wanted to, again, this is in essence, even though it's paid duty, it's not part of their normal day-to-day job. Have you ever run into a situation where potentially you don't get enough quote unquote volunteers to fill the number of spots you need?
Through the chair, Member Pierce, so if we're unable to fill event within, we look outside. So what I mean by that is if Brant County isn't able to fulfill the needs of that venue, that event, we will respond to or reach out to our neighboring detachments. So for instance, Paris to Ancaster typically has 30 plus paid duty officers at that event, just because of the sheer size of that. So we lean on our detachments that surround us to help us support that event. If we are unable to staff an event, so for instance, if there is a traffic control paid duty that comes through the C committee, because of the timing, this doesn't give us enough time to prepare or to advertise, then we'll decline it, and then we'll have to pick another date. So, but traditionally, if we commit to something, we will provide those officers.
Okay, good to know, and I appreciate that context. Thank you. Other than that, Madam Chair, there was nothing brought from council, and if there's anything I can take back to council, I will do so.
All right. Okay, so then we'll move on then to Zone 4. Not a lot happened since our last meeting, other than there was an all zones committee meeting where they're talking about how they're restructuring some of the O.P.P work and the zones themselves, and the O.P.P PGO will be taking on some of the administrative side of things, the banking, the financials, and they're trying to streamline the responsibilities and roles of each of the zones, chairs, secretaries, administrators, so that everybody's doing the same thing. We'll have some dates coming out, I guess, shortly. With the in-person will likely be September, with some onlines between all that. If there's anybody that would like to help, or I can gladly pass the torch as well if that's something that's of interest. And then talking to some colleagues within our Zone 4 area, there's some interest, and I'll talk to Acting Inspector McTaggart about this. When we have some free time, there is some interest with our colleagues, O.P.P boards, of just connecting together separate from the municipal boards and having conversations, sharing best practices, that type of work. So they've reached out for that. And then that's all for O.P.P. And then from the chair's perspective, just wanted to let you know that the 2026 version of the Youth Academy that the board supports has started, as Acting Inspector McTaggart talked about last week. It started on the 14th, but I went last week to the group, about 20 youth from all over the county and some outside of the county, to give a presentation on what our board is and does as part of the overall curriculum. I was probably the least exciting part of their night because they had, the rest of their night was a day in the life of an officer, and they had an ERT member there, they had street crimes, I think, or detective, I don't remember who all was there, and then, of course, our communications PC, Coletta calls it the CEO, and I know it's not the CEO in the traditional terms, but community engagement officer, is that right? He was there as well. So that was great to be able to be part of that mix of students. And Tamara Brooks-Wheat that we talked about earlier, she's coordinating the program and facilitating the program. So every Wednesday night, she's at the detachment with these youth and running the program, and she's got quite a program. So it's great to see that her efforts for the past 3 years of this program, because essentially, my understanding is we were kind of the first out of the gate with this youth program back in '24, and now I see other detachments broadcasting and advertising a similar type of program, so it's great that Tamara's being recognized for her work with the youth in this, and I know she loves it. We also, three of us, Member Brown, Member Stryker, and I attended the retirement function for Michelle at the end of December, and we're able to acknowledge her commitment and contributions to the County of Brant with some flowers on behalf of the board, which she has thanked us for and appreciates that. And then it was great also, I got to meet on Wednesday night one of the new cadets that Acting Inspector McTaggart talked about, and that makes, we have 3, I think, currently in the detachment, 3 cadets in the detachment, which is great, but what a great story to have the 2024 Youth Academy participant now be a salaried cadet recruit on the team. So that's great news, and he seemed pretty excited by it all as well. So that's always good. Other than that, I'll leave it at that for now because we have a lot of other things we need to get to unless there's any questions. Let's move into other business. Do I have to do anything to, nope, I don't have to do anything there. They're just updates. There's no motions required. Other business, we have the action plan in our package. Just so we know that there's 3 things, I know we added one thing. So we have the action plan, we have the conference request, and then there's the Nova Vita event. So we'll start with the action plan, and I'm gonna ask Acting Inspector McTaggart to kind of give us the run through on that, and then we'll open it up for some discussion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So with the development of the action plan, myself and Chair Haley had several discussions back and forth on priorities and how we would go about carrying out this action plan to identify the needs of Brant County. So I've prepared a quick high-level update. One of the tools that we utilized to capture the needs was a survey. And we pushed the survey out. We did have some complications here and there, but for the most part, we got a good reply of individuals from the county on, from all areas of the county to help me direct on the priorities for Brant County itself. So I'm just going to go through this real quickly here. The top crime priorities, property crime, as you can imagine, was at the top of the list. It was ranked as the highest concern, theft, vandalism, followed by violent crime and drug-related offenses. The lowest priorities were gang activity, weapons offenses, hate crimes, and then there was obviously additional concerns regarding street racing, traffic violations, impaired driving, cyberbullying, elder abuse. The preferred crime prevention strategies basically increased police patrols, which I think visibility has always been a priority and a key factor in everything we do. Other strategies identified were community education programs, neighborhood watch, youth mentorship, mental health, and addiction supports. And then suggestions of ride programs, track enforcement, and visible policing, again, followed closely with that. Traffic safety concerns, speeding, top issue, and I think that, as everybody would agree, that that is always an issue with every parts of the county, followed by distracted driving, impaired driving. Other concerns raised were intersection safety, school zones, aggressive driving, and there's also flags for stop sign violations, street racing, and large truck traffic. Because we do have the Grand River making its way through Bryan County, that is a factor that we have to consider. It wasn't a huge concern with those individuals that completing our survey. They didn't identify water safety as a priority, but they did reference reckless operation of watercrafts and lack of enforcement on the Grand River. So duly noted. Community well-being challenges, mental health crisis, and addiction-related incidents were significant concerns. There was some identification from homelessness, lack of youth engagement programs, and I think a lot of this is the residents unaware of some of the programs we currently have in place. And then comments for to do better were better mental health resources, housing, community activities for youth. Desired police involvement, top of the list, which I think we're going to knock off in the spring, is more foot patrol and bike patrols. So I think we'll accomplish this piece of it. We're very well positioned for that. And then presence at community events. So that's where our service delivery model is going to speak to some of these issues that the community has identified. Interest in safety workshops, school programs, in collaboration with local organizations. And then a strong call for visibilities, traffic enforcement, and community engagement. So as you can see, some of these areas are overlapping one another. The demographics, the majority of residents live in Paris or West Brant with long-term residency, which is 10 plus years. Age group was 30 to 49 years, where we saw the biggest takeaways from or feedback, I should say. And yeah, so again, when it comes to crime reduction is prioritizing crime prevention. Police visibility is the community engagement and visibility piece that the residents have identified that they would like to see more of. Traffic safety, they want to see more speed enforcement blitzes, and random traffic traps. I don't know we would call them that anymore. That's more of an education piece. And then ride programs. And at ride programs, you're seeing all year round. So, and then the mental health and social, again, is integrate mental health professionals into patrols, which we already are doing with MCERT, and advocate for funding and partnerships. So that is pretty much the highlights of that survey. And some of it is, when I think about what we are currently doing and what the public is unaware we're doing, is there an appetite to highlight some of those programs and pieces that we're currently seeing that we're doing that the board knows about, but obviously the general public doesn't know about because they wouldn't have raised these concerns if they knew we were already doing some of this stuff. So moving forward 2026, actually through the whole 26-29, I want to make that a priority, is to do some more public education on the programming that we're offering and some of those good news stories that are reported to the board on a regular basis, but the public isn't aware of. So that was kind of the driving factor when I put together the action plan specifically to Bryan County. Now, some of this is driven corporately by the organization, so not everything in here was input that came from me. The organization put together a package, and then I just basically expanded on that. So the commitments, the action plan commitments, and the actions and outcomes were predominantly from our survey, and tried to direct where we needed to do better on. And I know some of these areas are very kind of high level speaks, and they're not specific on what we're going to do, but knowing where our priorities are that I report on every month through our board report, I will implement those strategies into those commitment areas so that we'll see hopefully positive outcomes at the end of the plan. So I won't get into the plan, and hopefully everyone's had a chance to view it, review it, and I'm just looking for some feedback on things that I could potentially improve on to make this solidify it and then move it forward. Thank you.
Just a quick question before we get into the action plan. The survey, knowing what you know now, would you do it again in future to solicit feedback?
Yes.
That's a good question, because I thought, did we capture enough of the community? And knowing this was the first year we've ever done that, could we done better in messaging? Could we have had potentially like a town hall type setting where we tell people this is moving forward? This is kind of what we expect of you. This is how you complete it. There might be some more education we could have done on the survey itself, because I know there was some stumbling blocks with individuals completing it. But I felt because we did get a wide perspective from the county, and it was good to see the feedback and hear the feedback, I would definitely consider that an avenue, but there might be some more areas that we could review and do better on. I guess is probably a good way to put that.
I think it's important that the community's engaged, council, community, all the stakeholders are engaged. It's more about the process sometimes than sometimes the final result. But I think also let's acknowledge that you had a very tight time frame to work with. So, you know, in future action plans, we need to give ourselves a longer runway to be able to solicit that feedback, whatever that is. And we should note that the county staff did a great job in helping you with the survey tool and the promotion of that tool. So just want everybody to know that they did a great job with that, helping Acting Inspector McTaggart out. He knew what he wanted to do, but he didn't have the computer software, which the county did, so it worked out perfect. But I think having a longer time frame to solicit that feedback next time would be my reflection, is that we need to give more time. Sometimes more time is not always a good thing, but in this case, I know that you were under tight parameters. So, action plan discussion. I know Member Stryker's kind of been raising her hand there, so I'm going to go to her first.
Through the chair, I just have a couple of questions one is about the map and our detachment area. And I noticed that it included Brantford and the Six Nations of the Grand River Territory with the boundary lines. I'm just wondering if you can provide some clarification, because it's my understanding that we're not policing those areas in the same way.
Through the chair, Member Stryker, yes, so this is one of the areas that I had no input on receiving our corporate strategy management unit that oversees the development of these action plans, provided this was part of the package that is pushed out. And I think the reason they're doing that is for consistency across the province, because every detachment is providing an action plan. To your point, I recognize that we do not police the city of Brantford, nor do we police the Six Nations of the Grand. But this is the mapping that they gave to me, and my understanding there's no room for movement on that. Because I did reach out on that. And this is, like I said, for consistency purposes, this is the mapping structure they use corporately.
So on that note, I guess just on that map, like it shows the city of Cambridge, it shows land east of us that would be the city of Hamilton, but it's showing that, you know, the Highway Safety Division, Burlington covers like the Flamborough-Troy area in that map. Highway Safety Division, Mississauga would cover, so even though they have City of Cambridge Police or City of Regional Waterloo Police or City of Hamilton Police, this is just O.P.P resource allocation. So how, to Member Stryker's point, somebody reading this say, well, but we don't provide police service to City of Brantford or Six Nations, they have their own police services. How do we contextualize that? I know it's corporate, but I'm just trying to think about other people that would read this.
Honestly, I don't have a response to that, because I didn't draft this, nor did I have the input into identifying those areas that you have all raised here today. Yeah, that's a good question, and like I said, I was told that this is a corporate, like this mapping structure that they use is used across the province, and there'll be other similar jurisdictions such as ours that have neighboring, like for instance, Haldeman. I haven't seen their map per se, but they might have other areas within their structure that might skew what people think actually is provided from O.P.P policing and what's not.
Is it possible that, like, this is your territory that you cover, and should City of Brantford need help, they call, like, are you the first call, like, technically, or are they going to O.P.P big headquarters, or like, I'm just trying to think of catchment areas, or trying to rationalize why we would, you know, include this, like, is City of Brantford or Six Nations, if you collaborate with them all the time, but if they needed help or they needed support or additional services, would they be calling on Brant?
So our Provincial Operations Center is where they would contact, and we do traditionally provide services to the city and Six Nations. What I mean by services, I'm referring to, like, if they need a breath tech for a breathalyzer test, or they need a drug recognition officer, or Six Nations need our emergency response team or our TRUE team. So we do provide those other services to these locations. I don't know if that's why they're left in the area. That's a good point, Madam Chair, but yeah, I don't know how else to explain the mapping because I wasn't part of that piece of it.
Do you have other, yep.
Yeah, and then just another follow-up piece, and maybe this is something just to take back to corporate then. If this is something that is made public, and the public will be reading it, I wonder if there'd be consideration for a legend. Just, there's a lot of short forms and acronyms. I think the big four is one that I Googled.
Like a glossary of terms or
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that?
just as an aid, but again, I mean, the information is there, but just for ease of reading the report.
Through the chair, Member Stricker, that's absolutely a great idea. For this year, I can expand on some of those acronyms to reflect, so there's nothing left up for interpretation by anybody reading it. That is an easy piece for me to do. And sometimes I'm mindful that I know what those mean, but not everybody else does. So that's a good piece for me to understand as well.
Thank you. I know, Member Boudreau, you had a question earlier that you wanted to bring back to the table in terms of previous topic.
Yeah, I believe the acting inspector provided at least some guidance for that, because I think what he ultimately said is that as he looks at these initiatives and compares that with the data we were going through today, that the actual strategies, local strategies that get initiated would obviously be directed towards those high items, i.e. car thefts. So as though, even though it's not listed directly, let's go get those, in an umbrella sense, and certainly at a local detachment level, there's an understanding that's an issue and it ultimately needs to be addressed. Now, if I'm misinterpreting that, the inspector is more than welcome to correct me. I did, before I hand it over to the acting inspector, the one other thing I had, just out of curiosity, was I was intrigued by the bits and pieces we did get of the survey, and I'm wondering if it's possible for the board to actually get the full survey results, so we can dive into it either individually or as a board to see what else was being said, to get a sense of what was there. And related to that, and I might have to go back to our staff, is 78 responses may not seem like a lot. Our Engage Brant is busy. I say that in the sense of, it seems like every week I get another invitation to Engage Brant and go do a survey, some of which are relevant, some of which are not. So I don't know that 78 is a bad number as compared to any other surveys that we've done, and it may be an average for what we get on the downtown dig or other things that we might be looking at. But I am interested in, I think it'd be useful for the board to see the actual results of the survey and get some general feedback from the staff on just how this survey results compared in actual responses to others. And then the final thing I would say is, much as I'm getting the electronic notifications of engagement, I don't know if this went out in one or more of the local papers, because I do know I have a number of friends that have signed off of social media, and the only way they know what's going on in the community is through the local paper. And that just might be something we consider next time around is that we include something in the local paper to try and drum up more of that.
I think that speaks to the very short runway we had with this, not we, collectively, not me, had with the survey. Good suggestions. Local paper works for Paris, doesn't work for the rest of the county because I don't have a local paper. But that's good suggestion for the town of Paris. But I think you had already mentioned some of those things, that if we did this again, how much different it would be, because your first time out, and this has never been done before. So, yeah, I think those are all good suggestions, and building in a communications plan and a little bit more time to solicit some of that feedback and in different ways, and getting people where they are, not necessarily all just on one stream, right? Having different ways of being able to access that. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Member Boudreau, so specifically speaking, and thank you for, I think we're on the same page when it comes to those priorities. So for instance, I'm just going to reference the crime action plan summary, enhanced proactive patrol and or initiative to target specific local crime trends and reduce victimization while increasing community safety. I think it's a high level statement for some of those local priorities that we're seeing. So for me, and then also increase public education, awareness of crime trends through enhancing engagement, presentations, and data sharing. So I think those kind of blanket statements, and I don't want to call them blanket statements, but they're kind of a high level that kind of takes into account all those small pieces that we're seeing with those motor vehicle thefts, with the vehicle break-ins, with some of those lower level crime issues that are very much at the forefront of our community here in Brant. So that's, yeah, I hopefully I've captured that in the plan with some of those high level. I couldn't dive deep into specifics. I had to keep it broad in order to encompass everything that was asked of me.
I guess it's just, I guess we'll have to figure out a way that we have this higher level strategy, and then we know that you have a Brant specific, more detailed one, and maybe that's where we can spend some more time in the future, like down the road, talking about, okay, now we have this approved, what does that mean specifically in terms of priorities in a more detailed way, that then that way when we're talking and we're reviewing, we can match everything up. Because our job is to make sure that all those things are happening, right? So yeah, that would be helpful to understand maybe in a more detailed level down the road once you get this approved, what that means. Councilor Pierce? You're muted. There you
Sorry,
go.
I couldn't get off mute there. Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, it seems to be, if I wait, my questions are answered, because a couple of them I had here. First of all, in regards to I've got it highlighted on mine too, the survey received 78 responses. Again, that's one of those ones that it's tough, because I know as a county, we do these, public information meetings and stuff like that, and you get, very important things, which absolutely this is, because, as we know, there's a lot of people that have comments about policing, and yet there's a survey out there and they don't take advantage of it. So the 78 responses, again, when you spoke of a short runway this year, that may be part and parcel of it. But Inspector McTaggart, you hit the nail on the head right there, and I'm wondering if when we go forward with this, if we could set up sort of a town hall that, hey, here's a town hall about policing in general, but this is going to be coming, and you set the stage at one of those, and then you have your survey come afterwards. I think that would hopefully help the respondents on that. But the unfortunate part of it is, as I've learned over my years of council, you think there's going to be literally hundreds and hundreds of people respond about it, and you don't. So it's I don't think we can fixate ourselves on that number 78, as far as I'm concerned, for the time we had on this, and this being one of the first ones. I think that's decent. And the good thing about it is the fact that it was kind of spread over the county, which is interesting, and it's not always the case, but it's nice to see that all corners of the county were submitting to the survey. My overall comment on it is I think with this direction, it's definitely it's the right direction to go. And what I like about the fact, and there's one specific question I have, but overall, when we talk about in your column of outcomes, And you know, ironic as it is, I'm a data guy, but it's how many times in there it says data-driven initiatives, and the other one is data-driven solutions, and the other one is it's all about data-driven. Increase the number of data-driven, you know, patrols and stuff like that. To me, that's the correct way to do it, because you're going on actual data to try and understand where the you know, where the resources are required, or what you know, what tactics are required and stuff like that. So I think it's absolutely the outcomes we want to do is you know, it's kind of a double-edged sword. You don't want to have yourself in a situation where you got all this data on, we'll call it, you know, bad things, so to speak, or crime or whatever it is. But that, as you know, as you've alluded to many times, it's that data and it's all that work, all that, you know, investigative work with the data given that puts you in the direction that needs to go. So I think that's absolutely what we want to get out of this is factual data that is, you know, in essence, directing which way to go. The one question I do have, though, and it's on, I guess it's page 10 of your report. The comment was expand local level expertise and specialized traffic enforcement that would directly benefit our detachment area. And whether it's today or next meeting or something, can you elaborate a little bit on that for me? Like, give me an example of maybe something that's been discussed at the detachment, or something that you have in mind that you've seen elsewhere or heard elsewhere. I'm just curious as to how, you know, what ideas are you looking at in that sense? Because I'm sure with the surveys that there was a lot of people, and it, you know, it takes into consideration with your speedings and all that kind of stuff. But overall traffic enforcement, kind of what ideas you're looking at.
Through the chair, so Councilor Pierce, that commitment is to building on our current member training when it comes to specific areas. So highway enforcement interdiction is a big one, where we're seeing movement of guns and drugs from one area to another, where that is very specialized training that requires a commitment from the detachment and the person in that role to push it forward and to get those results. So we don't have anybody trained on that currently at Brant Detachment, but just knowing that guns and drugs and property goes from one area to the next, what can we do, knowing we have a 400 series highway running through Brant County, to identify, and there is training to pick out which vehicles would be conducive to a traffic stop and would yield those results we're looking for. So it's specifics like that I find value and results in specific training to very specialized portions of traffic enforcement beyond just like speeding and distracted driving and things like that.
Okay. No, I appreciate that, and thank you for this. It's one of those that it also, to me, it shows we're not just looking for tomorrow. We're looking down the road, which I think is very important, especially the way things change. I mean, you can make a plan for tomorrow, and all of a sudden your plan's out of the water because things have changed drastically. At least looking at the 3-year span, again, I believe it's the right thing to do, because that allows you to kind of, you know, shift as we're going if need be. So thank you for the work you've done on this, and it's very good.
Before we get into a motion or anything, what's the next steps? Like, you've brought it to us today, whether there's any changes or not, it then has to get submitted to West Region, or how, I'm just curious, what's the process timelines for when it gets approved and finalized?
Madam Chair, so once the board has had a chance to review and provide feedback on, the attached commander then will take that feedback, make necessary changes or additions or whatever that means, and then it gets uploaded to our portal that I downloaded the actual plan from, and then it goes to our West Region Command. So the superintendent at West Region that's in charge of our syndicate will then approve the plan, and then it goes to our strategy management unit, and they collect all the plans, and they're hoping to have the plans in place across the province by March. And then from there, I reached out yesterday to try to determine is it up to me then to message it out to the Detachment board, out to municipality? I don't know the next steps beyond that, but obviously I'll be made aware of that once it's completed.
And then eventually we'll post the final approved version on the website page so that it's accessible to whomever. But yeah, no, just curious to, so we need to, today's the day where because you need to get it in. So obviously today was the day that we've had our chance to provide that feedback. Do you have, from the discussions today, do you have what you need then to be able to take that to the next steps?
I believe from what the feedback from the board members that have spoken, I can definitely make a few of those minor tweaks to make it more of a fulsome and understanding document for those that are not familiar with the policing world and language and everything else. That and I think the priorities and actions hopefully align with what everybody feels is important for Brant.
So I'm just, Spencer and I were just kind of deciding, do we need to approve the draft action plan so that you can say, yes, it's been reviewed and approved by the board? Would a motion for that decision, like you can say then with certainty that, yes, it's been reviewed and been approved? Or is it just for information today? I'm just trying to understand what you need.
I think all I need is just approval from the board that to move forward on it, and then I'll keep pushing it forward.
So we should do a motion then. Okay. So we will do a motion then to approve the draft as presented, if that suits everybody. Member Boudreau?
So the answer is yes, with the addition that actually Member Stryker mentioned, because I do think a glossary, fantastic idea. So I'd be happy to move it forward, but with the addition of the glossary of terms.
If the powers that be say that's not the template, we can always add our own page down the road. If, I'm just trying to game this out a little bit, that if it seems like it's a very structured process, and they don't like a lot of change. So if they don't like the idea of this glossary, then we can always do our own one page to post as well. Could we not, separately?
Madam Chair, I don't see a problem with that at all. Like I said, I have strict parameters on what I can do as attached commander. But if there is a need to expand on that once it's approved, I don't see an issue with
I mean,
that.
it would be nice if it was included, to everybody's point, but if that's gonna be a no-go, let's have a backup plan to that. Okay, so Member Boudreau, are you prepared to make that a motion then, that, oh, Mayor Bailey, sorry?
No, through you, Madam Chair, is there any way, Acting Inspector, that we could outline somehow on that map what you really do for us instead of having it a Brantford thing and a Six Nations thing? Maybe that could be on that new page where you're going to explain what everything means. But I think that when it comes through with a map like that, it's not going to be received well. So why let it not be received well if we can fix it now?
Through the chair, Mayor Bailey, absolutely. Like I said, I will follow up again with our strategy management unit regarding that mapping to see, like I said, one person's opinion might not be what the manager of that unit feels as well. So I will push us as high as I can to address the concerns the board has raised regarding the map itself and a true reflection on what is policed by the O.P.P. and what is not. In the event that that is not accepted, and this is exactly how it is, then absolutely, then I think there's an appetite to provide that additional form after the fact so that the public has a true understanding of what is policed by O.P.P. and was not.
Yeah, thank you for that. I just think it's a very sensitive topic right now, and with all the stuff that's gone on in the last couple of years. So if you could just make it clear, even if it's at the next page, where they look at it and it seems wrong to them, turn the page and then it's explained.
Okay.
Thank you for trying.
So we have two possible scenarios here of both the map and the glossary of terms, either being included, or we'll do a separate addendum, County of Brant specific, if that isn't palatable to the template. Understand that they want to keep some consistency across all the detachments across Ontario, but at the same time, there's some nuances that need to be appreciated as well. So with all that, is anybody prepared to make a motion to approve the draft as discussed and presented today? Member Boudreau, thank you. Seconded by Mayor Bailey. All those in favor? And that's carried. I know that was a lot of work for you and your team to put all that together. It always is, but appreciate you doing that. And I know we've had a lot of good conversation about the survey tool, but it's just day one, right? We can move forward from that. And we also had a council-specific survey as well that isn't reflected in the 78 people either. So getting in touch with your stakeholders is never a bad thing. Okay, so that's done. Phew. 12.2, there's not anything in your package. This was an addendum to the agenda, and I'm gonna lean into Cindy for some of this because we know we don't have an approved budget as of yet, going through the county process still. Everybody's doing their best. But there's an opportunity, we spoke to this earlier, Acting Inspector McTaggart spoke to this conference that Tamara will be going to get her award. But in addition to that, the conference that's being held early February, so that's why we have to decide if it's something that we're going to be able to do today. PC Vitalis, our youth officer, has the opportunity to participate in the conference as a conference participant, and looking to see if the board would support the registration costs and hotel costs. The O.P.P doesn't cover this in the budget. And I think you had given an estimate, it's under $1,000. And I know that Cindy, I know we don't have a specific line item specifically for this. I don't recall in my time on the board having someone from Brand attend this conference. So this is great. I think that someone can go and all the youth officers can exchange and network and talk about things that they're doing within their communities, and they can bring that back to Brant as well. But Cindy, what can we do with this budget piece if, knowing that we're kind of in limbo right now for 26?
Through you, Madam Chair. So I am looking at the 2026 budget that was submitted. And if that budget ends up being approved by council, there's just over $10,000 in community engagement opportunities that aren't specifically identified, that the board had some discussion around during the budget process. So if this was supported, I would suggest that that's where it could be funded from. And with the budget piece, I think that, again, if it's supported, the board does want to cover these costs. We've drafted a resolution such that it would be covered by the board. But if there was a significant budget cut that came back to the board, that the board could have additional discussions on potentially funding from the reserve, because there are still reserve funds available. There's a few $1,000s still sitting there. So there is an alternative if the 2026 budget is reduced through council.
Any discussion? Any concerns? Spencer had drafted, Spencer's going to read out a potential draft motion just so that captures everything that Cindy just mentioned so that everybody's comfortable.
Through the chair, the draft resolution is that the County of Brant O.P.P. Detachment Board support funding the attendance of one Brant O.P.P. officer at the 2026 COYO conference from the 2026 O.P.P. Detachment Board budget, and that the funding source from the board be brought back to a future board meeting if the 2026 budget estimate as submitted to County Brant Council is not approved.
Is everybody comfortable with that? Is there anybody willing to, so it would be a maximum of $1,000? Is that what I apologize, you'd given me a number, but I can't remember.
Madam Chair, so the conference itself is just under 500, but it's because it's over 3 days. There's 2 nights stay required for that, and then depending on the hotel stay, where the location is, there's a couple of hotels listed. They're in the range of 150 thereabouts per night. That brought up to just shy of $900.
Okay, so is anybody prepared to make this motion that Spencer just shared with us? Is it Member Stryker? Seconded by Member Boudreau? Any other discussion? All those in favor? And that's carried. So it would be great to hear from PC Fatales at a future meeting, just some of the things that he's working on. We talked about some of the different people coming in to talk. That might be an opportunity to talk about the conference and some of the youth engagement work that he's doing. I know you report on it, but hearing from him directly might be an opportunity as well. And maybe if the board is interested down the road, once the youth academy's wrapped up, maybe having Tamara Brooks-Wheat come in and talk a little bit about that program and what it's doing and kind of the curriculum that they've developed. That would be probably informative too.
So just to clarify, Madam Chair, because there is a timeline for PC Vitalis to register, I do have approval to let him know that he will register for the course. He will likely be out of pocket for that expenses, and he can submit those expenses to the county. Okay. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, 12.3, just as an information, the Nova Vita Women's Day event is coming up. They've reached out to see if we are interested in supporting attending again. It is on Wednesday, March 11th. And I know we did attend last year. If there's folks willing to go or not go, or I know Mayor Bailey, you usually attend on behalf of the county as well. But if there was any interest, we should secure tickets sooner rather than later, and waiting till our next meeting at the end of February might be too late. So we could potentially say, okay, the board's gonna send 2 people, and then we can figure out the 2 people, or we can, I'm trying to think of different ways to work this through. I know, talking to Acting Inspector McTaggart, that he's interested in attending and showing support from the policing side as well for those services. So yeah, I'm not sure what folks are thinking, but we did go last year. We did approve it. I believe we put it in the proposed budget as a specific thing this year. Not, I don't want to speak to it. If you, yeah, you please.
Through you, Madam Chair, the budget includes $1,000 for the Nova Vita event.
Thoughts? Anybody interested in going? I mean, I potentially am interested in going if there is. Mayor Bailey, yes?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, I think I'm going to go for sure, but you don't have to worry about me. I'll take it from my budget. But I think it shows huge respect and support for something that I think is very important to the county and beyond. So, I mean, the acting inspector is going to go, I would imagine, and we would certainly take care of him. And I mean, you went last year and you had a good time and you did networking, and I think you should go again if you want to, and take your buddy there, Mr. Brown. And you know, because it is a wonderful networking event, and people know who you are now. You've worked hard to be seen, and I would support you guys attending again.
Thank you, Mayor Bailey. Cindy, just to clarify, do we need a motion on this because it's already in the proposed budget, or how do you want this captured?
Through you, Madam Chair, I don't believe so because it is already in the budget. I would just note that we would preferably hold off on payment until after the budget's approved.
Which is?
Later on in February, I can't remember the exact date.
Mayor Bailey?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Cindy, if Member Stryker, she's new, if she has any interest in going, maybe what we could do is we could buy a table, because that would give us almost enough, and we could split the table with my budget and make it maybe a little bit more reasonable for a Member Stryker to go if she wants to. and Mr. Brown and the chair, and the acting inspector, I can sit at that table too, instead of my own table of politicians. And that would justify the cost of an entire table if we want to make a decent, presentation or at least be seen as a group.
That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it does too.
Okay, so we'll coordinate that between Spencer, Cindy, you guys will help us get that coordinated so that we
Yep.
can make that happen. And thank you, Mayor Bailey, for that suggestion. That works out great.
Yep.
Okay, so we don't need a motion on that. Member Stryker, Member Brown, if you're interested in attending, okay? And then, okay, let's move in. We're almost done. I know we're going over time by a lot today, but one more important thing that we have to do today is we do need to go into camera for an agenda item. Oh, sorry. We did have the volunteer police check on there as well. I'm okay to hold it if everybody else is, but I don't want to, I know it's 11:45 and I'm conscious of everybody's time and the next agenda item is a must-have.
Sorry, Madam Chair, I've got like 10 minutes max.
Okay, so if everybody's okay, I'd like to table the volunteer police check discussion to the next meeting. Not to say that it's not important, it is important, and there's, there's lots of things going on there, but in the essence of time, I think we'll table that till February, and we'll get it on the agenda in a more fulsome way that way. Okay, so that being said, we do need to go into camera, and so I'm going to ask Spencer, I'm probably doing it wrong, but you need to read the motion out first? Okay, thank you.
The motion to go in camera will be as follows, that the County Brant O.P.P. Detachment Board convene in camera to discuss Section 44.2G, information explicitly supplied in confidence to the board by Canada, a province or territory, or a crown agency of any of them, detachment commander recruitment.
So a motion then to go into camera, Mayor Bailey, Councillor Pierce, all those in favor? That's carried. We'll just wait here for We're good? Okay, so we're back out in open session now. This concludes our very long and lengthy meeting today. We've had a lot of good conversations and a lot of good discussion. Our next meeting is scheduled Tuesday, February 24th, here in council chambers. Just a reminder, generally speaking, the agendas will be out 2 weeks ahead of time, so if you have agenda items, to make sure that Spencer has them in that time period. And without further ado, let's adjourn the meeting, and everybody have a good day and safe